Hello and welcome everyone, and thank you for joining the Commonwealth Chamber Hong Kong's webinar today, Gateway to Africa, Ghana, Opportunities for Hong Kong Businesses. I'm Julia Charlton, the current chair of the Commonwealth Chamber here in Hong Kong. I'm so excited to introduce you to our dynamic and amazing panelists who are trailblazers in their fields of expertise, and we're so lucky to have them here with us today to discuss Ghana's crucial importance within the African region and provide the inside track on inward investment into Ghana, opportunities in fintech, financial markets, consumer goods, media markets, and post-COVID tourism. Our panel members are Mr. Yofi Grant, CEO of the Ghana Investment Promotion Centre, Ajoba Kiyama, Executive Director of the UK Ghana Chamber of Commerce, Akwasi Agaman, CEO of the Ghana Tourism Authority, and Claudia Andrews, Manager at Grow Unite Build Africa Enterprise, GUBA, who's standing in for the very famous Denta Amoateng MBE, President and Founder of GUBA. Our moderator for today is the redoubtable Mr. Andrew Wells, who's the General Secretary of the Commonwealth Chamber of Commerce here in Hong Kong. Can I also say a short word or two in celebration of the life of my very dear friend, Lennox Hewitt Mills, my school friend and dear lifelong friend since we were 4, who sadly passed away on June the 17th this year. The reason I mention him is that Lennox's grandfather's horse, which was called Hooray, was the winner at a major horse race attended by Queen Elizabeth II in Ghana in 1961. And Lennox would have so loved the fact that we're doing this webinar today. So let's move on and let's hear from Andrew, who's going to say some more words and moderate our panel. Over to you, Andrew.
Thank you very much indeed to our founding chairman, Julia Charlton, for her introduction to this seminal event. My name is Andrew Wells, and I am Secretary General, Secretary, of the new Commonwealth Chamber of Commerce in Hong Kong. I'm delighted as moderator of this session to have the honor of introducing 4 such distinguished speakers, and it's an added personal pleasure for me that I've met at least 3 of them before in person in Ghana. Mr. Yofi Grant, as Julia said, is the CEO of Ghana Investment Promotion Centre. It's an extremely important body which reports directly to the Office of the President. Amongst his many, many other roles, he's a council member of the Continental Business Network of the African Union, and he sits on the steering board of the World Association of Investment Promotion Agencies. Yofi, it's a pleasure to see you again, even though not in person. I hope that next time it will be in person. Claudia Andrews is, as again Julia said, kindly standing in at the last minute for Denta Amoateng, who's had to travel suddenly on an urgent overseas assignment. I think that very fact shows how important Ghana is to the international business community. Claudia, who is another familiar face, is the senior executive at GUBA. GUBA is an iconic initiative for many people, not just in Ghana, but also in the UK. It's changed its acronym a bit. It now stands for, if I've got this right, Grow, Unite and Build Africa, which is an excellent acronym. Ajoba Kiyama is the Executive Director of the UK Ghana Chamber of Commerce, and her expertise ranges from corporate law to logistics to investment promotion. And we hope to hear from her today what the realities might be for Hong Kong entrepreneurs, Hong Kong professionals and businessmen who are considering to start up or resume business in West Africa and Ghana in particular. And finally, Mr. Akwasi Agaman is at the head of the Ghana Tourism Authority, but he's also got very wide senior experience in the media. I think it's not unreasonable to say that tourism and travel are at the forefront of all our minds at the moment. And I do note that the UN WTO Tourism Day 2021 has just been held in Ghana. So a big welcome then to all our speakers. Before we begin, could I add just a quick word on webinar housekeeping? As moderator, each of the speakers will be allotted 7 minutes to make a presentation. Then we'll go to Q&A. Participants, please type your questions in at any time using the question box that you will have in your icons and indicate to which speaker or speakers you'd like them to be directed. Well, without any more preliminaries from me, may I invite Mr. Yofi Grant to take the virtual floor.
Andrew, I think Mr. Grant's running slightly behind. Perhaps we should move to the next speaker and come back to Mr. Grant?
Sure. If that is the case, we've had technical problems before of this kind, and I'm sure we'll catch up in a moment.
So perhaps Ajoba, we could hear from you if that would be okay.
Thank you, Julia. Good morning, everyone from Ghana. I was hoping that I would immediately follow Yofi because he does a wonderful job of selling Ghana, and then I wouldn't need to talk about the opportunities in Ghana because he would have said it all. But given that I only have 7 minutes, I will just go on and talk about, just go along with what I prepared for, and hopefully he will do the Ghana sales pitch later on when he joins us. It goes without saying that Ghana presents a myriad of opportunities for entrepreneurs and investors from any part of the world. But the thing is, I represent an organization called the UK Ghana Chamber of Commerce. And as the name suggests, we were established in 2016 to promote bilateral trade between the UK and Ghana. And our key objective is to see Ghana become a significant trading partner, import source, investment destination for the UK, and vice versa for Ghana to the UK. We are based in Ghana, and just like any other member-based organization, we operate on the 3 platforms of networking, advocacy, and trade services. But for the purposes of today's event, I'm going to focus on what we do under trade services because that is what would be of great interest to people who are interested in doing business in Ghana. We help UK businesses identify market opportunities in Ghana. We also help Ghanaian businesses identify market opportunities in the UK. And we have access to up-to-date market information or trade advice, courtesy of the trade and investment advisors of the UK's Department of International Trade, our strategic partners. Our services, therefore, would typically be of benefit to any investor to Ghana, not just investors from the UK. And what this does is that it places us in a very unique position to understand what the needs of a foreign investor into Ghana are, what challenges they face, and what they must do to ensure a successful venture into Ghana. Now, just like any other country, doing business could be very successful or it could fail depending upon the path that you choose to undertake. And the GIPC website has it explains in great detail what you need to do if you want to invest in Ghana. And I would encourage anybody who is interested in doing business in Ghana to visit their websites, all the relevant links that you need on the website. And even on our website, which is www.ukgcc.com.gh, we have links to the GIPC website. And we also have links to any other relevant website that you might need. And as I was saying, if you want to do business in Ghana and you want to visit, for example, it starts with getting a visa to come to Ghana. And it goes all the way to actually establishing that business and beginning your operations. And so there's so many steps that you need to take. But like I said before, just like anywhere else you would like to do business, it's not necessarily a bed of roses. You must make it a point to retain the services of an experienced trade or business advisor with a thorough understanding of the local economy. And you must ensure that you have shared expectations so that you don't run into problems later on. And I must add that this cannot be overemphasized, because having a credible person or institution to hold your hand through the entire process enables you to navigate swiftly and more effectively and ensures greater success for your venture. I mean, you will avoid being scammed, you will avoid unnecessary delays or frustrations that come with attendant costs. If I want to highlight a typical problem that you would encounter if you don't use a credible partner or a credible service provider, a typical example is our land tenure system in Ghana. Depending upon what you want to do, should you need land in Ghana, for example, it can get very, 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 very complicated, and so if you don't have the right partner, you could lose a whole lot of money if you try to invest in land. I don't want to go into details, but many foreign investor has come in and fallen prey to pitfalls around land acquisition, for example, and gotten their fingers so bitten that they've had to leave with nothing. So the key thing is to find the right partner or the right advisors. Another thing is we have legal and regulatory compliance requirements that locally based legal advisors can guide you on. One of the things that I've discovered, particularly with large corporates, is that they come in because they have centralized services like legal and everything else that you need to run a business. They would have their legal advisors at head office put together any kinds of contract that needs to be drafted, any legal opinions that they might need to do business in Ghana. And sometimes, without reference to the right legal partners in Ghana, for example, you might end up finding that you're breaching certain local laws or certain mandatory local regulations, which are not immediately obvious. And this is particularly the case with companies that operate in other Commonwealth jurisdictions, because they tend to have the perception that it's the Ghana legal system is based on the English common law, which is the same for other Commonwealth jurisdictions. And therefore, templates that they use in their markets would necessarily be applicable in Ghana. And then you'd find that the company gets frustrated when things are not moving as they should, and they're getting frustrated because of the delays and blockages here and there, but it's because they're not using local knowledge and local advice. Whilst I would recommend that you use local advisors, I can only speak on behalf of my chamber. And at my chamber, we can either assist as ourselves, or we can match you with the right partners. And some of the areas in which we work are market entry consultancy and support, contacts identification and introduction services, identify potential local partners, key regulators, and leading private sector players in the country. We do company background checks. We undertake media and marketing services. We provide information on regional business opportunities, as in sub-regional opportunities in West Africa. We also provide business landscape navigation services. We can also provide brand promotion services, and there's a whole lot more that we do. Like I said, we have a list of member companies that can either provide these services, and where we do not have member companies that provide these services, we're able to match make with potential and credible partners that would provide these services. And at this point, I would like to pause and come back later to address specific questions that anybody in the audience might have. Back to you, Andrew.
Thank you very much indeed. That was a really important presentation from our point of view, I think, because from my experience, Hong Kong business, especially at the moment, with all the difficulties that we all face with COVID, trade wars, and what we're interested in the practical details of how to get things done. And so very grateful for those insights. While we're waiting, can I just ask Claudia to come in, because Claudia has a slightly different perspective from a lot of the rest of us because of her experience in non-governmental, non-private sector, sort of half and half public, half private organizations. Would you like to just say a few words for us, Claudia?
Okay, thank you, Andrew. Yes, I would. Good morning and good evening to everyone that's tuned in. So, as mentioned, I'm representing Madam Denta of the Guba Enterprise. So I'll just give you a little bit of a background on what Guba is and what we do before we go into doing business in Ghana. So the Guba Enterprise is a social enterprise organization which is dedicated to the advancement of diaspora Africans and Africans back home. And we do so through our socioeconomic programs, namely the awards, the Guba Foundation, our trade expos, our career exchanges, and then our newly launched Diaspora Transition Network. So in all that we do, we seek to grow, which is by supporting businesses to grow, encouraging entrepreneurship, private sector development and initiatives. And we do this mainly through our Guba Expo, which annually brings together small and medium businesses from Ghana, the UK, and the diaspora, whereby they get to meet with industry leaders to find out how to scale their businesses and to gain a wider market. The second thing we seek to do is to unite, and we do that by providing an engagement platform for greater cultural diversity. So our programs are normally held in the UK. In 2019, it was held in the United States, and this year it's being held in Ghana. So we move across the country and trying to unite various people with interest to network with the African diaspora and the African continent as a whole. So our initiatives mainly focus on driving tourism, business, and investment into Ghana. So the newly instituted Diaspora Transition Network is a platform that's dedicated to individuals who have currently relocated to Ghana. And they are professionals from varying backgrounds and countries. And, it's quite diverse. So it's therefore evident that there's a rise in relocation to Ghana. And one of the main focus of that relocation is to establish businesses in Ghana. So why is Ghana the gateway to Africa, you might ask? Well, so from our previous events, research, and surveys, we found that the first thing that investors and business professionals find that Ghana is a safer introduction to doing business in Africa. And this is as a result of governmental stability, with Ghana being a thriving and consistent democracy, and also the fact that Ghana is a country free of conflict. In addition, the government has also put in place many institutions and initiatives that I'm sure our panelists will be touching on. And these institutions focus on driving tourism, business, and investments into the country. Not only that, but once in country as well, there's ongoing support to help the establishment of the businesses, or foreign businesses specifically, since they are new to the terrain. So with that being said, it is evident that Ghana is open for business and has been for some time. So Hong Kong businesses are welcome they can initially visit Ghana to get a general idea of which businesses will suit the climate of Ghana. So Ghana is definitely well positioned for business, and I'm sure our GIPC head and GTA head will expand more on the investment and the tourism aspect of Ghana. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Claudia. That's a very unusual insight into the opportunities for us and also what you do. I'm sure Denta would have been saying almost exactly the same things, but thank you again. And we'll come back to you in a moment, I'm sure, with a lot of questions, in particular as to how that could affect us. Now, I see that Yofi is now in his office, so perhaps we could ask Yofi to, very good to see you again, Yofi, to take over for a moment.
Thank you very much, Andrew. It's been quite a while since we met in Hong Kong, and I think it's due for another visit, definitely. And I had the previous speaker say that Ghana is an entry, and everyone is a gateway into Africa. I dare to say differently. Ghana is a destination for Africa. It's probably the most attractive in terms of growth and in terms of the ease of doing engagements. Not registered, but it's when you come to Ghana, you embrace the country, and I've seen it throughout my years as an investment banker. But as I was saying before, Ghana, I say the story of Ghana is the 3 O's: opportunity, openness, and optimism. Opportunity because we are resource rich, and I did mention some of the minerals that are here. But we also have a comparatively good human capital as compared to our neighbors, and we are engaged significantly in reforms to improve the market. But I think the real opportunities lie in the fact that our policies have been fashioned to facilitate constructive engagement between foreign direct investment and indigenous investors and business people, such that we have a whole experience of a relationship between the foreign investor and the country. And that's why Ghana, in that sense, is spectacularly attractive. We are English speaking. We are, most important of all, we are in the center of the world. Ghana is the only country on latitude 0 and longitude 0. And not only are we in the center of the world, we are plumb right in the center of West Africa, a market of approximately 370 million people in various stages of development. But I dare say that the real opportunity comes with the fact that Ghana, as headquarters of the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, is also spearheading industrialization on the continent, a massive opportunity for foreign direct investment, which will bring about the largest tariff-free market in the world since the WTO. And so if you come to establish in Ghana with all the incentives and the attractions that it is, then you can export to the continent and tariff-free. And I believe that for us as a country, that definitely opens a huge door of opportunity and partnerships and linkages between foreign direct investors and indigenous directors and the indigenous economy, because we really want to engage the local economy also in the value chain and the procurement chain and the supply chain of foreign direct investments and the businesses they have. The reason for that is that it creates a more sustainable business engagement. And we realize that having a local partner, for example, enables the foreign direct investor negotiate the nuances of the market, which is very important. And those that have local partners are able to get things done much quicker. And so it's also an added incentive and a bonus to have local partnership. Now, openness, because we do engage. And this is one of the examples of the engagements, talking to our investors across the globe. After this, I'm just going to get on a plane to go to Dubai for the Expo 2020. But we also have significant engagements that are happening there. And for us, the important thing is to forge a partnership. And the government has policies that are facilitating private sector engagement with government and engagement in development. The president has a public-private partnership engagement once a quarter where he meets the captains of industry to discuss policy and how to run things. So the openness is there. We are also known as a politically very stable country, and with a spectacular love for the rule of law. And so for us, even the questions of expropriation do not arise, because you can actually take the government to court and win, and there are examples of that. But it creates for a very conducive and harmonious atmosphere with investors. And now the last one, optimism. Optimism, because we have been able to achieve many of the aspirations and objectives that we put in, especially since 2017 when a new government came in. And from between 2017 and 2019, the economy grew, doubled from the preceding year's GDP. In 2017, it grew by 8.1%. In 2018, it grew by 6.3%. And 2019, it grew by 6.8%. Now, that certainly put Ghana in one of the fastest growing economies in the world. And of course, COVID came and disrupted and truncated a lot of that development. But even having said that, Ghana was one of the few 26 or so countries that did not go into deep recession in 2022 because of the way we managed the pandemic. And the president was very instructive and very focused on his leadership during that period. And as I'm told, Ghana and Singapore are mentioned as the two countries that seem to have had, South Korea, Hong Kong, I'm not there, so I wouldn't know, Andrew, but you tell me. But Ghana and South Korea have been mentioned as the two countries that seem to have a constructive plan to manage the pandemic. So accordingly, our mortality rate is still less than 1%, and our infection rate is still less than 4%. Recovery rate is somewhere around 96%. So we have still managed to hold firm a robust economy. The economy in 2020 grew by 0.4% from what we projected to be 6.8% prior to COVID. But the good thing is that since the beginning of the year, the World Bank and our rating agencies have clearly indicated that Ghana has recovered much faster than projected and intended. And the projection is that by year end, our GDP would have grown to 5.5% and looking above 5% in the medium term. And that is the optimism that we have. We have built solid policy initiatives like the One District, One Factory to initiate an industrialized economy. And because we are resource rich, we want to convert all those resources into finished goods. I mean, can you imagine that the continent of Africa, with its 1.3 billion people and all its resources, exports all its resources and imports back the finished goods? And for us, the narrative in Ghana is to turn that around, that the continent now starts to export the finished goods instead of importing those finished goods on the back of the resources that we have. I mean, Africa is always going to be a rich continent. And by 2050, it will be bigger than China, it will be bigger than India, it will be 2.5 billion people with a demography that says about 70% will be below the age of 35. That is a consumer market just waiting to happen. And that is why Ghana is positioning itself to create a very exciting business and investment opportunity in Africa and spearhead this whole industrialization of Africa through the maximum of Ghana Beyond Aid. And so we are clearly ready. I just want you to remember anytime you think of Ghana of the three O's: the opportunity, the openness, and the optimism. And we are happy to embrace foreign direct investors. We believe that between them, we actually have a relationship, not an act. And we see the investors as forming relationships. So we are here at GIPC and we facilitate and assist investors actually monetize their investments into businesses and cut across a lot of the red tape and bureaucracies that they'll have to deal with. We have an aggressive aftercare unit that also assists investors, make sure that we help them negotiate further the nuances of the legal systems and the regulatory systems and the support systems that they have whilst they are in Ghana. Beyond that, too, we've just recently set up a diaspora desk to ensure that we can harness and capture investments and funds from the diaspora. But we are very clear, though, and Andrew, I'm sure you bear me out, since our last trip to Hong Kong, which was quite a couple of years ago, that we sort of share a common view of where we can bring mutual benefit between Hong Kong and Ghana. And so I have been looking for an opportunity to ensure that in the next half year, at least, we would have a delegation to Hong Kong to meet with business people. And the intention is that those who have the appetite for the African opportunity, we will engage them to find out how we can make it possible for them to be here. It's a partnership of mutuality, and I dare say that the returns definitely are worth it. So thank you very much, Andrew.
Thank you so much, Yofi. You have lost none of your eloquence despite the ups and downs that the world's gone through, and the 3 O's are still very convincing. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll now ask Mr. Akwasi Akiman to take the floor on behalf of the tourism of your country.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Always a delight to be on a platform like this. Good evening, Hong Kong, and good morning, Ghana. We're just coming out from celebrating the World Tourism Day. The global one was held in West Africa in Abidjan, and Ghana had its version in Hohoi in the Volta region, where we're looking at tourism for inclusive growth. And I think talking about inclusive growth, Yofi rightly said it, Ghana is ready, and that is the title of my presentation. We've been ready, and I believe through the pandemic and how our president has led the management of this pandemic, we are really ready now to welcome the world back to Ghana and also to play that role that we've always played as the Pan-African leader. I just want to give a brief background on the sector composition, how the sector is situated. We have the ministry, which is at the policy level, looking at working with the implementing agency at the Ghana Tourism Authority and other agencies to ensure that our tourism is placed on the right pedestal. And so we have at the Apex, the Tourism Ministry, and other agencies that work with us on tourism promotion, tourism development, acquisition of land, suitable land for tourism investment. And then we have the Ghana Tourism Development Company, which is more like the investment wing of the sector. We also have the Ghana Tourism Federation. And so under that, the entire value chain is represented. So you have tour operators, you have car rental companies, travel and tour operators, chefs, everything within the value chain is situated within the Ghana Tourism Federation. And we have a very, very strong linkage with them as a public sector to ensure that policy meets implementation, that we're able to hold hands together as private and public players to bring our tourism to the level that it is. I mean, 2019 was a very good year for us when we commemorated 400 years since the first enslaved African arrived, but also we celebrated the resilience of the African spirit. And through that, we got some reasonable numbers coming into the country, moving our tourism growth around 18%, whereas the global average was around 6%. Julie, as you go on, I want to now share why Ghana. I mean, we're talking about proximity, connectivity, and easy access. Ghana is literally the center of the world. We're the closest landmass to latitude and longitude zero. And so we pride ourselves as the center of the world. And it's not just a geographic description. We are also the center of the world in terms of our culture, in terms of the way we do business, in terms of the friendliness of the people. We have world-class facilities to suit all budgets. And so for those who are looking to come here, both as business people and also as tourists, this is the place where your budgets, you have 5-star hotels and also budget hotels that will meet every category of visitors coming into country. Politically stable, safe and secure. I think Yofi has mentioned that, and I think earlier presentations also highlights this as a unique selling proposition for Ghana. Efficient and friendly people, enhancing holiday destination. We have a wide array of tourist attraction and sites. And so for those who are even wanting to have a mixed bag of not just other locations where you already have only one attraction, we have it all: adventure, ecotourism, heritage tourism, leisure, and the rest are all within that mixed bag. And the food is also very good. And so this really is what positioned Ghana as a destination for people wanting to visit, and then also people wanting to come and do business. One thing also is that Ghana is now positioning itself as a MICE hub for West Africa. And MICE is meetings, incentives, conferences, and exhibitions. We are host of the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement Secretariat, and that in itself brings a lot of business conferences into destination. The GIPC has led several business summits into the country. In the next few weeks, we are going to host Africa Youth Connect, where almost 5,000 youth across Africa are coming. In December, we have the Kusi Ideas also going to happen in Ghana. And then also the December in GH that brings several musical concerts, events and activations into country. And so for those interested in investing in the MICE space, banqueting facilities, conference facilities, hotels, this is really the time for you to come in. We talked about COVID and tourism. And like Kofi said, we have been one of the countries that have been touted as having managed this pandemic reasonably well. As our president rightly said, he said, and I quote him, "Let's protect lives and later on livelihoods." And so we've done a very decent job in protecting our lives and making sure that things didn't get out of hand. But then as a tourism sector, we were the ones that were mostly hit because our industry thrives on public gathering and movement of people. And so at some points, we had near zero occupancy in the upmarket hotels, and then about 10% average in other category of hotels. Closure of borders significantly impacting international arrivals. And then also we closed our attractions, delayed transactions. Overall, there were declines in profitability, and construction and contracts were put on hold. But we've seen a resurgence. Like you rightly said, we've managed this well. And so if you go to the next slide, what we have done as a public sector agency working with the private sector is to find ways that we could show the resilience that we talk about in the system. And so we did provide PPEs, training, protocols on COVID for the industry in conjunction with the Ghana Health Service and the National COVID Task Force. We also started providing some financial support. This week, for example, there is a disbursement of about $11 million to the sector, mostly for SMEs, to make sure that they are able to bounce back on their feet quickly. We worked also on the COVID protocols. And so the easing of the restrictions that we have seen in Ghana is largely because we work very closely with the National Task Force and also with the various associations. And so we took it category by category. Hotels, what were the protocols that we needed to put in place to make sure that you could get along with your business? Same thing with events. And so now, with the exception of beaches and nightclubs, almost all subsectors of the industry have their restrictions eased, and we are looking forward that we are going to have that also eased very soon. Then we also went on an enforcement drive. So it wasn't just putting in these restrictions and protocols, making sure that people really complied with it. And a lot of people who have come to Ghana have said this is really one country that they've seen adherence to COVID protocols, wearing of masks, and even coming into the airport, the sort of protocol that you have to go through has really kept the citizenry safe, investors safe, and also make sure that people get along with their livelihoods. So COVID, post-COVID, what are we looking at? So we've taken the issues and the rating as it is now and what is happening. So we're doing a lot of digitization. We've taken the time, the period of COVID, to really ensure that we automate the industry. So currently we are working on a single window platform, which both operators, regulators, visitors, and everybody within the tourism value chain will use. And so whether it's booking a hotel or ordering food or looking for information for your investment in the tourism sector, this will be the platform that you will go to. We have the retraining on the new normal. And so we have a sector skills revitalization program going ongoing under the Ghana Cares project. Ghana Cares is really a transformational project that our president has launched into country. And for us in tourism, what we are doing is to build capacity of operators. I mean, the new normal and also new techniques and trends in the business market. And then also we are looking at focused market penetration. And so this one size fits all approach has now slightly changed for us. We are looking at market segments and how we can bring people in. Domestic tourism has become critical, and we've seen people moving in country. Those who used to go out for holidays are now staying in country. And so that also opens up opportunity for people wanting to invest in budget hotels within the catchment areas of our tourist sites. Product diversification is also currently ongoing. Investment incentives, we are working very closely with GIPC. I think like Yofi said, we are ready to hold hands with investors and also open our doors for discussions on how we can together work and make sure that you bring in your dollars, they are safe, you can take it back, but in between time, you have a good time. And then also cross-sector linkages. Tourism thrives on other sectors of the economy. And so for something like the Africa Free Trade Continental Agreement that was signed, tourism has now become one of the key beneficiaries because of the number of conferences and business meetings that are happening in the country. And so airlines are benefiting from it, hotels are benefiting from it, and we're looking forward to working with investors to ensure that the entire value chain benefits also from such international agreements. And so basically, this is who we are. We're very resilient as an industry. We've survived COVID, and we know that we are going to start doing the numbers that we did pre-COVID. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Akwasi. That was a very tempting presentation. We can't wait till tourism does actually resume to Ghana. Now we have time constraints, so let's go straight to questions and answers. We've received quite a few questions from the floor. Let me exercise my moderator's privilege and ask the first one, if I may, for any speaker, maybe first to Yofi and then others. Presentation was very, very interesting, of course, but as Ghana emerges from its present problems, I mean, we're all emerging from our present problems economically, what are the areas where you think our entrepreneurs, professionals, and businessmen in Hong Kong should be looking at? What are the things that we should be looking at?
Very important question, Andrew. And the Ghana, as we are emerging from this whole crisis, the ethos is to build back better. So as Akwasi just intimated, we have a program called the Ghana Cares program. It's the COVID alleviation and revitalization of enterprises support program. It's a 100 billion cedi program, which is approximately divided by some $16 billion program, with the main focus being in agriculture, infrastructure, industrialization, technology, and then health and education. And so the important things in that sphere is agri production and value addition in that's agri processing. On the infrastructure side, we are looking at an integrated transportation system where we are building about 4,000 kilometers of new railways and about 11,000 kilometers of new roads. The railway projects have started, and there's what we call the Western Line, the Eastern Line, that all converge in the middle of the country in a place called Kumasi, and then it goes up to the Central Line that goes right into Burkina Faso. And in between there are all sorts of intermodals. We also have recently opened a new airport to facilitate movement, and it's reputed to be one of the good airports in Africa. But we have also the largest port in Africa, the Tema Port, which has a capacity to deal with 3.7 million TEUs annually. And so in all that matrix, what we are trying to do is to build back better by ensuring that we give opportunity to industry that would engage a lot more people in labor, create job opportunities, but also create rewarding returns to the investors. Energy is also a very important part, but we are trying to migrate from the thermal into more sustainable and renewable energy. So those are the immediate opportunities that come up. And of course, tourism. I didn't mention.
Very, very clear. Thank you. I just want to have a follow-up with maybe Ajoba Akwasi or Claudia, whoever. These areas are quite high intensive in terms of investment. What about for our small and medium enterprises, for instance, medical supplies, for example, entertainment and films, for example, well, you name it, retail, I don't know. Where would you recommend this is a good time for us as for small and medium-sized entrepreneurs to be looking at building on the back of these bigger things to come into Ghana?
If I may jump in, I think
Please,
time is about right for the SME sector to jump in. I mean, if you take, for example, entertainment and film, we've seen a very steady rise in productions. Content is becoming critical globally, and the need for African content on platforms like Netflix and other emerging platforms makes it imperative that those who are within that space look to Ghana. I mean, we've had in the last few months productions that have happened here. Samuel Jackson was here in 2019 to shoot a movie. Currently, there's an ongoing movie being shot, but I can't disclose fully, but it's been shot, a very Hollywood blockbuster movie being shot in Axim in Ghana. And so those sort of opportunities exist. Then also working with the Ghana Export Promotion Authority, we also have several opportunities within that space for small businesses who want to export artifacts, handicrafts, and the rest. And then also the food. I mean, food packaging is also becoming another growth area. And so we've seen, for example, Ghana cocoa being processed and exported. And so within the value chain of tourism itself, there are opportunities. And I believe, like Yofi did indicate earlier, there are other areas that will also fall in line with some of the plans that government has.
Thank you, Akwasi. Before we carry on, I think we should take advantage of the fact that because this is one of our first major, or indeed our first international event as an institution, our chairman, Julia Charlton, is here. I'm sure she may have a question or two for this distinguished panel.
Yes, I'd be really interested to know whether you think there's opportunities in the fintech space and for tech companies.
Okay, I think I'll take a quick shot at that. But before I answer that, let me just quickly go back to a question that Andrew asked. Ghana's economy is about 85% SME, SMI, or what we now classify as SGBs, small growing businesses. And so any focus on foreign direct investment partnerships should also take cognizance of that. But to you, Julia, technology has become really one of the main foundations of government's programs. And government has clearly indicated that it's going to use technology to facilitate its interaction with the citizenry. And accordingly, we have embarked on an aggressive technology development plan. But I guess that the lead has been taken by fintech. And if you look at the number of transactions that are taking place in today, it's about 80% on fintech and about 20% through the normal banking, physical brick and mortar channels. And that gives you, that tells you clearly that we are very keen on technology. Interestingly, Ghana has managed to attract the likes of Google, where they have their artificial intelligence center in Ghana. Twitter also put their regional headquarters in Ghana. We are speaking to Amazon to also have them put their regional headquarters in Ghana. United Airlines have indicated that Ghana will be the hub into the sub-region and in Africa. So clearly, technology is becoming increasingly important to our economy. And on the basis of that, there have been many initiatives, like there's the e-governance project to ensure that almost all government services are online. It's for efficiency, but also to remove the human element and the human agency elements of it. We have the e-law progress. We have the e-registration. We have the biometric registration of every person in Ghana. We have the national addressing system, whereby every 5 by 5 meter squared piece of land in Ghana has been given a digital address to enable us identify land and use it more economically. And so technology itself is becoming a very important platform on which many other endeavors and many other developmental projects are going to be laid.
Thank you for that. Julia, would you like to ask another question, or shall I go?
Sure. Yes, I'm interested in crypto and whether the government plans to digitalize the currency.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean,
are we the first to know?
That is based on the inevitability that very soon cryptocurrency and NFTs are going to really dominate the financial sector. I mean, it's like the start of a journey where you can actually see the road leading for the rest of the journey. I think that every country at some point is going to definitely digitalize its currency, because that's the only way that the world is going to make sense in a future of Industry 4.0 and what we are now calling Industry 5.0. So Bank of Ghana has engaged in this process, and they are trying it out to see how best we can get our own digital currency in the near future.
Thank you very much. I know we're running close to time, but there are so many enthusiastic questions from the audience. I really have to hope that our hosts will allow us to carry on for another 5 minutes, approximately. A question from Peter Mann, who is chairman of the Royal Commonwealth Society here. He's interested in, from the tourism angle, what are the facilities and opportunities for ecotourism? And maybe let me just, because of the time, let me just put 2 questions into one. There's another question of a different kind, which maybe either Ajoba or Yofi could respond to, which is from Neville Schroff, a very distinguished entrepreneur here, who has asked, if we're trying to invest in any of these things, is there just a one-stop shop to which we can go?
Quickly, GIPC. You don't need to go anywhere else. Just come to GIPC, which is the Ghana Investment Promotion Center, of which I head, and we shall handhold you to ensure that, like I said, we onboard your investment into a business, because it's a partnership. Once you come in as foreign direct investor, we take it as a partnership, and it's my responsibility to ensure that we convert all these opportunities into real businesses.
And to add to that, in terms of ecotourism, we have several forest reserves that have been preserved specifically for ecotourism enterprises. I mean, I'll ask the listener to go to Zena Lodge up north on the Mole Park, the Mole National Park. There's a case study of that. I mean, where concessions are granted to private sector operators to also come in. So if you go to the Mole National Park, Zena Lodge has been established now recently at the Shire Hills, which is also another forest park. There are facilities that are coming up there. Thank you. But like Yofi said, GIPC will hold your hands.
One more question that has just come in, which is, I think, quite interesting. It's come from Nicholas Tom, who is a member of the preparatory committee for our own Commonwealth Chamber of Commerce here. He's interested in finding out, Ghana has a tradition of being involved in gold, and recently, perhaps a little bit more so, I don't know. Does Ghana have any aspirations or opportunities in the gold industry?
Yes, we do. As now the leading producer of gold on the continent, we are definitely looking at and increasing our gold production. There have been at least 2 new projects that I know of that are looking at prospecting and mining gold. But the direction is not just to mine the gold to export, but actually to add value to the gold in situ. And so we're encouraging investors who will mine, and also encouraging investors who would process and refine the gold. such that we have our own standard and our own marks in it. Currently, we have grappled with what we call informal artisanal mining, some which sometimes facilitates unconventional methods and bring about, environmental challenges. But we are working assiduously on that. Every gold in any gold country will tell you it's a phase that you go through. But we are managing it to ensure that the state has better control and ensures that the investor gets his returns accordingly.
I have one more question, and then we'll see if there are any more before we go to the closing part of this excellent webinar. Going back to the tourism again, tourism or not, COVID is really having an enormous impact on everyone and everybody everywhere. So one of the things that was being talked about even before COVID in Ghana, I know, was virtual tourism. Would anybody would either Akwasi or anybody else like to comment on whether you see a prosperous future in virtual tourism, especially in the context of between Ghana and Hong Kong, China?
I can give it a start and let Akwasi finish for me. What I'd say is that from Hong Kong, China to Ghana, you would find that there are many commonalities. Indeed, there are quite a number of Chinese who have succeeded in Ghana. There are a couple from Hong Kong already who are here, who are doing good business. And so it shouldn't be a novelty. And you'd realize that Ghana, perhaps more so than many other countries, is very embracing. And so we have quite a remarkable mix of expatriates in Ghana in almost all sectors of the economy. From tourism to production, manufacturing, production, education, and health and medicine, and in fact, agriculture. And I would encourage you to take that bold step. And as I say, by 2050, Africa will be 1/4 of the world's population. That is definitely a market waiting to happen. And this is the time to get in there and take advantage of that opportunity before it becomes more expensive.
Yeah, I think we will all agree with you on that for sure. Ladies and gentlemen.
And then also, well, before you go, I think virtual tourism is part of our digitization drive, like I indicated.
Yes.
If you go to our visitghana.com site now, there's a 360-degree where you can do a virtual tour of some of the sites that we have, but nothing really beats the old-fashioned tourism way. And so, yes, we have the digital platforms, but in terms of tourism, we want people to fly in, experience the food, experience the culture. There are certain things that you can only see, but not interact with. So yes, we will have that openness with our digital platforms that are currently being built. But once we open up and Ghana is open, we're hoping to see more people from Hong Kong coming to Ghana.
Well, I hope you can speak to our government about that one. Yes. Yes, definitely, we'd love to do that. Well, as I say, thank you all so much. Unfortunately, in the interests of time management, I need to now bring the webinar to its concluding phase, but I'm aware that there are people out in the audience whose questions haven't been fully answered, not surprisingly, given how interesting all this is. So please, for those of you who have sent in detailed questions, I noticed my younger brother's one of them, I can't possibly thank. Joffy knows who I'm talking about. Please do send in your questions to us, and we will pass them on to the relevant speakers and see what they have to say about your queries. And then very many thanks to our speakers for their presentations and for their, if I may say so, very patient and thorough replies to all our questions. Speaking for myself, I'm certainly convinced that once we've got out of this COVID trap, visiting or revisiting Ghana has got to be a priority once the borders are open. So let's all put that on the record as something that we agree. And also, please let us all give our panelists a virtual round of applause. Thank you very much. I'd also like to give a special word of thanks to Mr. Edward Choi, who is the Honorary Consul General of Ghana in Hong Kong, who has given his support to this event. I'd like to thank all the participants who've signed up at what isn't always a convenient time internationally for the event. Please do keep an eye on our website for future functions, and also do be quite blunt and frank. Contact us, give us your opinions if there's things you think that we should be talking about or not talking about that you'd like us to address. We'll be sending out right after this a question. I think it's online after the webinar, so you'll be able to put your views there. But in addition to that, do just write to us when you wish. And finally, can I now pass the virtual floor back to our founding chairman, Julia, for her concluding remarks.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Well, I feel the excitement of all the panelists. It's wonderful to hear such energy in Ghana. And if this past hour hasn't convinced you to at least go to Ghana as a tourist, if not invest, well, I'm very surprised. I love the expression, Ghana is cool, Ghana is hot. So I think we're more or less at the end of this webinar. And thank you all very much for being with us today. And thanks to our fantastic panelists, Mr. Yofi Grant, Ms. Ajoba Kiyama, Mr. Akwasi Ayama, and Claudia Andrews. Thank you so much. And to our great moderator, Andrew Wells. Thank you all again. We look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye.